Welcome to this video tutorial on Chapter 3, more about rhythm, keeping the beat. In this chapter, we'll further our exploration of rhythm by considering topics here listed in the contents, which include meter, ostinato, polyrhythm, dotted rhythms, time signatures, syncopation versus backbeat, and some composing rhythms. So from Chapter 2, we learned about the use of notes and rests to indicate sound and silences in terms of the duration of sound. In this chapter, we'll be organizing those notes and rests into different groupings or meters, and the way that we do that is that we assign different numbers of beats to each measure or each bar. And those can result in different combinations of sound, different lengths of sound. And we can also modify the beat so that we can accentuate different parts of the beat. So this is the first example here. We're talking about meter, the way that the beats are organized. And the meter in this example can be a duple, triple, or quadruple. With the duple meter, we simply have a strong followed by a weak beat. And that sounds like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, or strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. A triple rhythm sounds similar. It's strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, with the first beat being counted as 1 is always strong, and the second beat is usually weak. In the quadruple meter, we have a strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, semi-strong, weak, strong, weak, kind of strong, weak. And this example is quadruple. We use this most often where the third beat is sort of strong, but not really, the first beat being strongest and beats 2 and 4 being the weakest. We have conducting patterns that show the downbeat coming down vertically, second beat across to the left, across on the horizontal plane, and then up for the last beat, beat 4. The conducting pattern is a triangle shape for a triple meter, and then down and up and down and up for a duple rhythm. This example shows a 6 pattern, which is sometimes used, not as often as the others, but in the 6th beats we have down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it shows the organization of the beats in terms of 3s on the left, and then 4, 5, 6, another section of 3 on the right. So we have ostinato, and these ostinato patterns are repeated patterns that are rhythmic, from the Latin that is obstinate, a recurring pattern. And you can see we have this ostinato pattern simply repeats, and we were to count it as 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and so on. We can play these rhythmic ostinatos, and in this example we can see that the bottom part is the ostinato, and the top part is changing. So part 1 has a changing rhythm, but part 2 has a constant or a repeated ostinato pattern. In this example, you see we have something called polyrhythm, in which case we have 2 rhythms. It can be more than 2, but at least 2 rhythms at the same time. And these rhythms can interplay, or they can intersect with each other, and they give a sense of rhythmic tension, sometimes rhythmic coinciding rhythmically, and sometimes they have some rhythmic tension and sometimes a rhythmic release when they come together. For example, at the end, every line has this 4th beat together, but they have different rhythms leading up to that 4th beat. In this example, or in this section, we talk about something called dotted rhythms, and in these dotted rhythms, they are ways that we can elongate the length of a note by 1/2 its value using a dot. When we do this, we have a dotted half note, which would be the equivalent of 3 counts, or 1 quarter note count, and 2 counts for the half note. A dotted whole note is 6 counts, which is the whole note itself plus 2 extra counts, or 1/2 its value. This is another example of ways that we can use the dotted notes in rhythms. A dotted half would be 3 counts with 1 more count, the 4th count making up 4. Here's a 1.5 count for the dotted quarter, followed by an eighth note, and that would form 2 counts, plus 3 and then the fourth count. A dotted eighth note, followed by a 16th. This is 3/4 of a count, followed by 1/4 of a count. And then the same thing is true here, except we reverse it. We have a 16th alone, which is the 1/4 of a count, followed by the 3/4 of a count. Time signatures are explained in this section, and time signatures are a musical fraction that indicates two things. On the top of the fraction, it indicates the number of beats in a particular measure, and at the bottom of the fraction, where it's the kind of note that gets the beat. And we have examples here of 3/4 and 2/4. The 3/4 shows 3 beats in a measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. The next example is the same, except it's only 2 beats in a measure, and a quarter note still gets the beat. Here we have eighth notes on the denominator, and we have 3 or 6 on the numerator on the top, and that just shows that we're counting eighth notes in these two measures, and we have 3 of them to count in this measure and 6 of them to count in that measure. We're only using quarter notes and eighth notes on the bottom of the time signatures in this particular course. Other notes are possible. Here are some other ways that we can show different measures or different rhythms and different time signatures. Here's an example in 2/4, 1, 2, 1, and 2, and. This example shows that we're counting eighth notes, and when we're counting eighth notes, this is not 1 and, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, because the unit of time is an eighth note instead of a quarter note. If you read the text in a little more detail, you'll see how these things fit together, but it's important to show the difference in terms of the denominator or the bottom note in our time signature. Here we're showing ways that we can count different measures, and we can insert the time signatures. In this example, the first example here, we have a half note followed by 2 quarter notes. And that would be, if we're in 4/4 time, that would be 1 half note, would be 2 counts, followed by another quarter note and another quarter note. That would give 4 counts altogether. So the answer here is 4/4 time signature, and it would sound like 1, 3, 4. In the bottom line, we cannot count in quarter notes because there are no quarter notes in this particular measure. There's only a single eighth note. So the answer here would be 1/8 time, because it's 1/8 note, and the eighth note would get the beat. Similarly, over here in the last example, we cannot count in quarter notes because there's not an even number of quarter notes. We have 1 quarter note, and the equivalent of 1.5. So instead, we would count 7 quarter notes. So 7 eighth notes rather, and that would fit here. And the answer would be 1, 2, 3, 4 with a line after it, 6 with a line after it. So it has 7 eighth notes. The answer is 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 would be the answer for that example. We have ways that we can complete different measures and different time signatures. And in the next part of our chapter, we discuss 2 important concepts that are often confused. These are syncopation and backbeat. Syncopated rhythms accent the weak part of the beat, while backbeat rhythms accentuate the weak beats. It's a little clearer if I show you the examples here. The backbeat accentuates the weak beats, which is 2 and 4 in this example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But syncopated rhythms accent the weaker parts of the beat, which fall between the numbers 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, for example. So the 2 concepts are similar. They are related, but they are not the same. Here's an example of the ways that we can take a regular or non-syncopated rhythm and make it into a syncopated rhythm by changing the order of the notes. At the beginning, we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Here we have a long note or a quarter note in the middle, and we insert it between those, and we have 1 and 3, and 4. The important part here is that we're accentuating the and between beats 1 and 2, and we lose beat 2 because it is contained in this quarter note. So again, this example is 1, 2, and 3, and 4 versus 1 and 3, and 4. If you tap your foot to the steady pulse and you say that in rhythm, you'll feel the syncopation. Here's another example. If we have a rest on the numbered beats, frequently it sounds syncopated. This example here starts with the straight rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. The syncopated rhythm is and 2 and 4. And we cannot hear beats 1 and beat 3 because they're taken up or they're replaced by eighth rests. Again, it's 1 and 2 and 3, 4 versus and 2 and 4. Those are both syncopated rhythms. We can compose rhythms by using notes and rests to simply fill in the length of the measures. And here we see a chapter summary. As before, we see the key terms and concepts and an overall paragraph describing the important concepts or important elements in this chapter, dotted rhythms, syncopation, backbeat, and so on. And here are the assignments listed at the end of the chapter. Looking ahead here, we can see the learning module for chapter 3. The study guide takes a look at many of the same ideas that are in the textbook with a video example. And finally, we have the assignments that are listed for this particular section of this class. The assignments are 3.3, 3.5, and 3.6 to give you practice and to have you explore other ideas of rhythm. I hope you've enjoyed this exploration of further rhythmic ideas in this course, Exploring Music.